We're talking the story. We're talking about a guy that just beat Belal Muhammad to become champion, now getting challenged by the 155-pound champion. It's a big-time fight, and if Jack Della looks the way he did last weekend, it's very, very intriguing fight because we've never seen Islam Makhachev fight up at 170 pounds. We've never seen it. We've never seen him have to compete up 15 more pounds. Yes, he is a big dude, but in terms of full-on stature, is he big as Jack Della Maddalena is?
Daniel Cornier has just warned Islam Makhachev not to fight Jack Della Maddalena as he thinks Jack is too big for Islam. On the other hand, JDM said he doesn't think Islam Makhachev respects him and believes Islam will underestimate him going into their fight. He admitted he actually likes being underestimated because it takes pressure off, but made it clear that what Islam thinks doesn't really matter. In the end, JDM said they're going to fight, and that's what truly counts.
You like that, though?
Yeah, I like it. Yeah, for sure. But it doesn't really matter what he thinks. We're gonna fight. I'm excited.
JDM also said he's not sure if Islam Makhachev will fight Ilia Topuria first or go straight into a fight with him. He admitted he doesn't really know what will happen, but made it clear he's ready for the challenge either way. JDM mentioned how the welterweight division has opened up recently with a lot of strong contenders emerging, and now with Makhachev looking to move up, there are big decisions ahead for the UFC.
Yeah, I don't know. We'll see what happens. But I'm ready. I'm ready for the challenge. But there's also the welterweight division. There's a lot of good challenges as well. So it's crazy how the welterweight division sort of kind of opened up a lot. Now there's a lot of challenges, and now you also have Makhachev going to wanting to step up. So yeah, big decisions to be made by the big dogs.
I actually feel like it's the most interesting division all of a sudden in the UFC.
However, Daniel Cormier said that a potential fight between Jack Della Maddalena and Islam Makhachev is a fantastic big-time matchup. He explained that if Jack looks as sharp as he did last week, the fight becomes even more intriguing because fans have never seen Islam compete at 170 pounds. Although Islam is a big guy, DC questioned whether he matches Jack in overall size and stature. He also brought up concerns about Islam's weight, wondering how small he had gotten while preparing for a possible fight during International Fight Week, and whether he'll have enough time to properly put the weight back on to compete at welterweight.
It's a fantastic fight. It's a big-time fight. And if Jack Della looks the way he did last weekend, it's very, very intriguing fight because we've never seen Islam Makhachev fight up at 170 pounds. We've never seen it. We've never seen him have to compete up 15 more pounds. Yes, he is a big dude, but in terms of full-on stature, is he big as Jack Della Maddalena is? And also, if he thought he may fight International Fight Week, how small had he gotten? And how much time does he have to put the weight back on the right way before he moves up to 170.
Cormier emphasized that this fight isn't just about skills, as it's about the story behind it. Jack just became the champion by defeating Belal Muhammad, and now he's being called out by a dominant lightweight champion. DC noted there are still a lot of questions to be answered, and while the technical breakdown, X's and O's, will come later, right now the focus is on the compelling narrative between these two fighters.
A lot of questions. But it's a big time fight, and we'll get into the X's and O's as we get closer. But right now, we're talking the story. We're talking about a guy that just beat Belal Muhammad to become champion, now getting challenged by the 155-pound champion.
Moreover, Dana White has already confirmed that the fight between JDM and Islam Makhachev will happen, as Islam will move up to the welterweight division.
Current lightweight champion Islam Makhachev is going to move up to the welterweight division to face Jack Della Maddalena.
However, Daniel Cormier said that if Islam Makhachev is able to move up to welterweight and win the title, it would further cement his legacy as one of the greatest fighters of all time. In DC's view, Islam is already among the all-time greats, but capturing a second belt at 170 pounds would elevate him even more. However, one fight that Islam would not take on that path is against Belal Muhammad. Both fighters had made it clear they weren't interested in facing each other due to their close relationship.
Islam, if he is able to do this, would further cement himself as one of the greatest fighters of all time. He really would. He would cement himself as one of the greatest of all time. I think he's already one of the greatest of all time. But by going up to 170, one of the things that he would not do was fight Belal Muhammad. And they were very clear about him and Belal Muhammad about not wanting to fight each other.
Cormier also pointed out that despite Islam avoiding a fight with Belal, other welterweights are taking notice. He referenced Joaquin Buckley, who stirred controversy by saying it was crazy for Islam to be rooting for his so-called brother's downfall. With Islam now targeting a second championship, he's already drawing attention from the top fighters at welterweight, proving that his potential move up is shaking things up in the division even before it happens.
Crazy that you were praying for your so-called brother's downfall. That was Joaquin Buckley. So not only does Islam have an opportunity to become a world champion, he's already got guys up at 170 taking notice.
Moreover, Henry Cejudo predicted that Islam Makhachev would beat Jack Della Maddalena and become the UFC's next double champion, calling it a clear step in Islam's legacy. On the other hand, Kamaru Usman backed JDM, saying he liked the way Jack carried himself and believed he had what it takes to defend his title. Both agreed the fight is likely set for October in Abu Dhabi, and with that in motion, the matchup between Ilya and Islam won't happen for now.
I think Islam Makhachev is going to beat him. I think he's going to become the 11th double champ in UFC history.
Islam tweeted, "Keep it shiny, keep it nice for me." JDM, I mean, it was kind of like the perfect comeback. He was just like, yeah, come get it.
Keep my belt clean. Okay, so the talking has begun, dude. That fight is set. That fight's going to take place in October, Abu Dhabi. I think we all know that. We're no longer going to get Ilya versus Islam Makhachev just now.
However, Michael Bisping gave high praise to Jack Della Maddalena, stating that the night against Belal was undeniably his. He lauded Jack not just for his impressive skills in the cage, but also for his humble and respectful demeanor, calling him a genuinely good person. Bisping highlighted Jack's standout performance and pointed out that he's always eager to take on tough challenges. According to Bisping, Jack is now ready for the next big test, facing Islam Makhachev, a fight he believes is on the horizon.
Tonight belongs to Jack Della Maddalena. He's an awesome human being. I've sat down with him several times and had some conversations. Nice guy, quiet guy, a man of few words, but I tell you what, that was an incredible fight tonight. And he'll take on Islam Makhachev. He doesn't care. He wants to be a part of the biggest fights possible. Islam Makhachev versus Jack Della Maddalena. That's the fight that's going to happen.
Javier Mendez shared his thoughts on the potential matchup, considering whether Jack Della Maddalena poses a greater threat than Ilia Topuria. While he admitted it's difficult to make a clear comparison, he made it clear that Islam Makhachev is highly motivated to take on Jack. According to Mendez, what drives Islam is the challenge itself. He spoke confidently about Islam's capabilities, highlighting his well-rounded game and relentless dedication traits Mendez believes equip him to overcome anyone in his path.
How do you feel about this version of JDM as a challenge for Islam? Do you feel like he's a harder challenge than an Ilia Topuria at lightweight?
It's hard to say. It's hard to say if he's a harder challenge. I just know Islam wants this one. So for me, that's the challenge I want, and it's the challenge that I know Islam's going to be, supreme over, because I just know his skill set. I know what he brings to the table, and he brings an incredible work ethic along with skill set in every area. So
Mendez went on to emphasize that Islam Makhachev brings a level of skill and experience unlike anyone Jack Della Maddalena has encountered. He expressed confidence that if the bout happens, fans can expect a thrilling showdown with Islam putting his world-class abilities on full display. Mendez also downplayed concerns about the weight jump, stating that Islam would hold his own physically at welterweight and wouldn't be at a size disadvantage against the division's top names.
Islam's a whole different animal than the Jack's ever been involved with. So if that fight does materialize, we're going to see a hell of a fight, and you're going to see Islam perform at an absolute incredible level. And also, the weight is not super big for him either. So he's going to be a fairly decent welterweight. So Islam won't be a small guy. He'll be a decent welterweight if that fight materializes.
In a separate comment, Javier Mendez shared his thoughts on Islam Makhachev potentially moving to welterweight. While he hasn't seen Islam compete in that weight class yet, Mendez logically believes Islam could benefit from more energy and faster recovery due to a reduced weight cut. He noted that during his fight in Australia, Islam only had 24 hours to recover before stepping into the octagon compared to the usual 36 hours he gets elsewhere. Mendez suggested that this shorter recovery window might not give Jack Della Maddalena a clear advantage, but it could have an impact on Islam's performance, particularly given his past experiences in tough battles with Alexander Volkanovski.
So I haven't seen him at welterweight, but I'm thinking, logically speaking, you know, he has to cut less weight, and you know, recovery time is a lot less too. So, but if it is in Australia, we'll need it, because in Australia, you know, they only give you 24 hours to recover. Then it's not a 36 hours like everywhere else. So we'll only have 24-hour recovery. So if that's the case, it's fantastic. And I don't know if that's going to be an advantage because of that reason. But if it's anywhere else where it's the 36-hour plus, then it's a nice advantage for Islam to recover quicker. Not that it's a disadvantage or not an advantage for Jack. It's the same for Jack, but for us, it could make a difference. 24 hours versus 36 hours for recovery, because I know it was for Volk. It was a big difference.
Ian Machado Gary shared his perspective on Islam Makhachev, stating that if Makhachev steps up to challenge for the welterweight title, the entire division needs to be on high alert. He characterized Islam as a formidable opponent capable of giving anyone trouble. Gary pointed out that competing at a higher weight class without the burden of a tough weight cut could enhance Makhachev's already dominant skill set. He also remarked that Islam embodies the evolution of today's top-tier mixed martial artists: technical, composed, and undeniably dangerous.
And if that man turns up and says, I want to be next, then I think everyone in the welterweight division goes, okay. He's an absolute disaster for everyone in the division if he comes up and doesn't have to cut weight. He'll still be big, he'll still be strong. He's the perfect example of the new evolution of fighters. Great everywhere.
Ian Machado Gary shared his perspective on Islam Makhachev, emphasizing that if Islam steps up to challenge for the next title shot, the entire welterweight division will need to pay attention. He called Islam a formidable threat to anyone, suggesting that competing without the strain of a weight cut would only enhance his strength. Ian further noted that Islam embodies the new generation of elite fighters, underscoring just how dangerous he truly is. Before the fight, Ian Gary confidently predicted that Belal Muhammad would defeat Jack Della Maddalena at UFC 315. He pointed out that Belal tends to get stronger as the fight progresses, thanks to his relentless pressure and tough, no-nonsense approach. Gary described Belal as a fighter who thrives on hard work, constantly pushing the pace and refusing to back down. He noted that he had seen Jack struggle against grapplers with lesser skills, and believed Belal's advanced wrestling would eventually take its toll on him. Gary even anticipated that Belal might finish the fight in the 3rd or 4th round if Jack could make it that far.
Could I get a quick 315 prediction, Belal versus JDM?
Every minute that goes by, it puts Belal in a better position, because he just is a workhorse. He's a grinder. He will grab a hold of you. He will be in your grill. He will make it ugly. He will slam you. He will just constantly be there. And I've watched Jack get ragdolled by people that aren't as good as Belal. And Belal is one of the best in the world at playing the game Belal does. And I think stylistically he gets his hand raised. And I think he gets a finish in the later rounds. I think if Jack can survive till 3 or 4, I think that's when the finish will come.
Stephen Thompson offered his take on the potential hurdles Islam Makhachev could face by moving up to welterweight. He pointed out that although Islam walks around at a fairly heavy weight, many welterweights cut down from over 205 pounds, making size and strength a real factor. Thompson also mentioned that while Jack Della Maddalena may have a slight height advantage, it's the physicality of the division that could challenge Islam the most. He acknowledged Islam's elite grappling skills, but stressed that Jack has already gone toe-to-toe with top-tier wrestlers like Belal Muhammad. In Thompson's view, it wouldn't be an easy test for Islam, but it's a matchup he's intrigued by and hopes the UFC decides to book.
I don't know, man. I mean, when you're going up to the welterweight division, those are some big boys. And I know Islam Makhachev walks around fairly heavy, but a lot of these 170s, they walk around real heavy. I'm talking about, over 205, 210 to the 215. Some of the guys that I've faced would walk around at that weight. I think the height, I think they might be the same height. I think JD might be a little taller, but when it comes to those guys and their strength, Islam, I think, is going to have a tough time. Now, do I think he could get it done? Yes. I think he's that good of a grappler. But like I said, JDM has faced some of the best welterweight grapplers and wrestlers in the division. Belal being one of them. I think it's going to be a tough night for him. I would like to see Islam fight Topuria. That's just me. I would love to see that fight happen. But if he comes up, we'll see what the UFC gets behind. And we all know you got to convince the UFC to make it happen. And you do that first by getting on Twitter, shouting it out, and get people talking about it. And that's what Islam did. So we'll see if that fight happens with JDM.
Dan Hardy offered his perspective on Jack Della Maddalena's trajectory, acknowledging his high ceiling but questioning whether he can maintain control of the welterweight division amid rising competition. While Hardy praised Della Maddalena's showing against Belal Muhammad, he shared doubts about how Islam Makhachev would adapt to competing at 170 pounds. Interestingly, Hardy doesn't see Della Maddalena losing to Makhachev, emphasizing that Islam is virtually untouchable at lightweight even against someone like Ilia Topuria. However, he raised concerns about how Makhachev might handle the physical demands at welterweight, suggesting that the added size and endurance required in a 5-round bout could wear him down.
I think Della Maddalena's got a bright future. I don't know whether he's going to hold the belt or, you know, he's going to lose it to another one of the top contenders and then pick it back up again. I don't think he's going to lose it to Makhachev, though. I think Makhachev holds the lightweight belt against anybody in the world, you know, on any day, you know, including Ilia Topuria. I don't think if he moved up, he would have much success against Makhachev. But Della Maddalena looked very, very sharp against Belal. And I wonder what Makhachev would look like as a welterweight, you know, whether he would look as strong and as lean or whether he would look heavier and, you know, potentially gas himself out because he'd be stepping straight into a 5-round fight, wouldn't he?
MMA analyst Luke Thomas praised Jack Della Maddalena for his standout striking performance, stating that he was the superior fighter in the bout, despite Belal Muhammad exceeding expectations. However, Thomas also highlighted some vulnerabilities in JDM's game, particularly his defensive lapses and the high-risk nature of his takedown attempts. He cautioned that such flaws could be costly against someone like Islam Makhachev, whose fighting style is defined by precision, control, and minimal errors.
The striking prowess of JDM, if he could just have enough time to get it going, would be enough. I think Muhammad somewhat overperformed relative to expectations, but in the end, JDM was better. But the defensive lapses, to me, I know we have to focus on like how good JDM is as a striker, but what could have cost him here was the incompleteness of his defense. And to me, he took a quantum leap forward today in showing how good that was. Now, again, trying to turn that defense into offense by trying to go for some of those ill-advised takedowns, especially in the 5th, and then you're getting kind of lateral dropped for it. You do that against Islam, and I think that's a huge mistake. Islam just doesn't make a lot of mistakes, right? He doesn't necessarily have, at times, always the flashiest offense. I mean, he does have very good offense. We're talking about the pound-for-pound #1 guy in the sport. But what really defines him is that he makes very, very good decisions.
Luke Thomas also shared his enthusiasm about the idea of Islam Makhachev making the leap to welterweight. While he acknowledged that a showdown between Islam and Ilia Topuria could be one of the biggest matchups in MMA, he was particularly intrigued by what Makhachev might achieve at 170 pounds. Thomas admitted there's no guarantee the move will be successful, but he emphasized the potential payoff of a chance for Islam to capture a second belt and solidify his legacy as a 2-division champion.
I have to tell you, Islam up at 170 to me is exciting. I know what everyone's going to say. Oh my God, the best fight you could have made in MMA was Ilia versus Islam. I'm not denying it. I'm not in any way asking you to feel differently about what was the best fight that could be made. But here's what I am trying to tell you. Islam up at 170 could be something really special. It could fizzle too, but I'm trying to point out the positives. It could be really special. For him to become a double champ could be a very big deal.
Luke Thomas clarified that even though Islam Makhachev is likely to face Jack Della Maddalena next, it doesn't rule out a future fight with Ilia Topuria. He suggested that Islam could suffer a narrow defeat at welterweight but still make his way back to lightweight for a potential showdown with Ilia. Luke expressed excitement about the prospect of Islam moving up to 170 pounds, noting that it could offer fans something truly special, particularly if Islam decides to stay in the division for multiple bouts. He also emphasized that Islam had earned the right to chase double champion status, citing his risk-taking mentality, such as giving Volkanovski 2 opportunities, one on short notice and one in the champion's home country, as proof of his dedication to competing at the highest level.
Just because you're going to get, it looks like, Makhachev and JDM next doesn't mean you actually can't get Makhachev and Ilia at some point. It could be he goes up against JDM and maybe he doesn't get his ass kicked, but maybe he just kind of loses and you're like, oh, all right. Then you go back to 55 and you can see what's up after that. So it's not even a case that you can't get it. But my point is, Islam at 170, if he gives us 3 or maybe even 4 of those, is a treat as far as I'm concerned. Like him vying for double champ status, he's earned it. He gave Volkanovski 2 cracks. He accepted one of those on short notice, and I know it was like shorter notice for Volkanovski, but you know, nevertheless, accepting to fight Alexander Volkanovski on very, very short notice is still risky no matter who you are and no matter how much prep. And he gave him both of those. He did one of those fights in Volkanovski's home country. He's earned it. He's earned it. He's absolutely earned it.
So what are your thoughts on this? What do you think about Islam versus JDM? We would love to hear your thoughts. So share your thoughts in the comment section and make sure to subscribe and like if you enjoyed the video. Also check out our other videos on the screen right now.